All right, Brian. Environment versus identity. It's pretty evident that our podcast is centered around the environment, obviously, and how important it is to factor in how the environment can influence,
Yeah.
doesn't determine anything,
Yeah.
but it can influence your identity. And I said here, how much of you is influenced? Like, how do you know is your environment actually, we think the environment is determining things. No, you determine things.
Mm-hmm.
The environment is contributing to you to make a decision to determine a thing.
Yeah.
And I heard a message from a great leader on Tuesday night. He said, it's amazing how a place will change a person. And then eventually the person will start to change the place.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Think about pregnancy, right? When a child is growing inside of a mother's womb, that child,
Wow.
right, is changing the mom's figure and
Wow.
shape, right?
Yeah.
But when that child is born, that mom get to have an effect in changing that child's life, right?
That's a good, I didn't even think about that.
It's
That's a good
pretty cool,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, the whole,
And it changes that mom's life. The schedule changed, perspective changed. So when I first met Janal and we were dating,
Yeah.
we was talking about having kids, and she's like, being a mom, I don't know. I don't know about being a mom, We'll see.
Okay.
Never thought about it. Didn't care about being a mom.
It's probably a good thing.
Yeah,
Whoever
but
think
bro,
that.
when she became a mom, she's the best mom I know. And I'm not saying that because she's my wife. Like, she's an amazing mom. Like, when we talk about some people, some mothers, some women, she's an amazing mom, phenomenal mom.
Yeah.
And she was adventurous when we first met. Roller coaster, skydiving. I mean, you name it. She was down to do it.
This is before?
Before. But when we met Lil B, when we had Lil B, things kind of dialed back.
Really?
She became less adventurous.
Huh.
I mean, not that she's not a ball of fire and still do some things.
She's considering some things.
She's considering some things, right? He had an effect on her. Him being in her environment, it changed.
Wow. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Less, was it risk adverse? Is probably
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about like the environment versus the identity, right?
Yeah.
Like how many times I've gone through different environments and how it's impacted my life.
Yeah.
I went from like way back when I grew up without a dad, for those who have never heard my story before. And then 13 years later, living with a stepdad and his kids with my mum. So it's my half siblings. So a few years with them and then joined the military.
Okay.
Military, 11 years later, I'm in Dallas, Texas. Like, talk about environmental changes.
Yeah, all that affected you.
Oh, yes. It has definitely influenced my life.
And it gives you a good perspective on life.
Depending on how you look at it.
I think perspective is good.
It all depends on how you look at those different environmental changes. Now, some people have gone through intense extremities of environmental changes, and it's like really traumatic. But it's like, man, I've always seen how a breakdown can turn into a breakthrough. I've seen it time and time again. It's all depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, a breakdown can turn into a breakthrough. I mean, I love it. I think about folks who go into prison and they be reformed, right? They have that time to be in solitude, that time to focus, less distractions. So they do what? They pray, meditate, read, work out, and they come out changed, But then you got those that go in and they become worse. They become institutionalized.
Yeah. Life
for them is being locked up versus, being out.
So interesting, because I remember we talked about this. I remember one great leader that I heard was talking about a prisoner who made a statement, and this prisoner I think was in there for a murder case, something like that. And he made this statement to this leader. He said, "I actually feel more free being in these four walls than I do out there."
It's called institutionalized.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the person who goes into the military and they do what? They make a phenomenal career out of it, right? They end up becoming generals, end up maybe getting into politics, changing legislation and things like that. Or the one who comes out with PTSD,
Interesting.
comes out with the struggle, comes out with pain and so forth. So the environment, it's going to have an effect one way or the other, right?
Yeah, and I wanted to go through some of the 5 foundational questions because I think this is very imperative, especially when it comes to self-actualization, knowing where you are right now. Because if you don't know, you won't grow. If you don't know where you are, you won't have the ability to grow. So one of those 5...
If you don't know your starting point.
You don't even know where to start. And that's the first thing you need to do is to start. So the 5 foundational questions, I want to start with the first 2, is who am I? Identity. Let's just start with that. Who am I? For you, Brian, if someone would ever ask who you are, not what you do, who are you, Brian? What would you say?
I'm called. I'm called. And what is it that I'm called to do? So I'm called to share, man. Like I'm called to share and I'm called to listen. Okay. I do more listening than I do speaking because I remember when I first got here to Texas, I was dealing with things that I didn't know I was dealing with. PTSD was one of them. And for those who listen to our podcast, listen to our YouTube channel, I've shared my story, my struggles, my upbringing without a father and so forth. So when I got here, I didn't know I was dealing with PTSD. I was just upset and angry and confused, right? And I went to go see a therapist. And what I realized is when I was there, I did more talking than I did. Like my therapist just sat there and listened, right? And through that came revelation. Through that, for me, came healing. Wow. And I was like, wow, there's a bigger benefit in listening to people than there is talking to people, right? So when I'm having conversation with people or when I'm counseling people or mentoring someone, I do more listening than I do talking because there is healing in listening. People want to be heard. People keep things bottled up within them and eventually it spills over in their actions, their attitudes, their disciplines, their processes, and life become chaotic, right? So if you ask me, who am I? I'm a listener. I'm a listener and I'm a giver, as in someone who gives my time to care to know people's story and care to help them be made whole in some way possible.
That's so good. I love that. I love the perspective of listening. I'm a little concerned, and I'm going to go back to who am I, but like when it comes to therapy, because I know with the contributing spirit that I have, because I feel like I'm a contributor. When someone says, who are you? I'm a contributor. I feel like I'm here to give something of value. Yeah. That's what I believe. I'm an agent of change. I want to change it for the good. Yeah. If it's bad, turn it to good. Yeah. So when it comes to therapy...
And I think in a nutshell, not to cut you off,
go ahead,
but we were all created to contribute. Like we were all created to contribute. I do this, I ask this question where I say, hey, what is that cup for? And you give me the answer. You say it was meant to hold liquids or something to drink. What were your shoes for? They were meant to protect my feet, so I don't have to walk on the hard concrete. What is this microphone for? It's so that I could speak into it and project the message and echo, right? Like we as human beings can identify every single thing, right? But then when we ask a person, and it could be someone you're counseling, it could be a student, it could be a 50-year-old woman, right? What is your purpose? What are you created for? You get a pause as if they don't know. Interesting. Right? And the truth is, like, the Creator makes no mistake. We were all created to do something. We were created to give. We were created to be a contributor in some way.
Create.
Yeah, we were created to create, right? To make things abundant.
So it's good because I hope that whoever's listening to this would be able to like, hey, borrow from us. Yeah. You don't have to recreate something. Just go ahead and borrow it. Like, if you can't say anything, to say, I'm here to serve.
Serve.
Simple.
Be of service.
Be of service, because then you become a contributor, a valuable asset to people. The next one is where am I from? Heritage. That's the part of the 5 foundational questions is where am I from? That's a good one. See, this is the thing. You and I, Brian, we have this tension of like, we are believers, right? Yeah. We believe in Jesus. There's no hesitation about that. But it's also like when people hear that we're believers and we believe that we're not from here, we're actually from heaven. It can throw, people can hear that and just be like, oh, that's weird, phony. It's like, think about it for a moment, though. How did you get here?
Yeah. Yeah. So here's what happened. Here's what happened when, so as a believer, being able to say that I'm from heaven, right? It gets rid of the delusion of trying to trace, I'm in Dallas, but I came from Detroit, but my grandma came from and then my grandfather came from, and then they came from. It's like, when does this thing stop? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, you go down a rabbit hole that's never ending. That's thousands of years.
You waste too much time and energy on that thing.
And it's unnecessary, right? Instead of getting to the purpose.
You can't contribute.
We're living in the past, trying to go find where we came from, right? As opposed to saying, hey, I was created by the Creator. I've been destined and purposed to do great things. I have a calling on my life. You know what I mean? I'm from the Father who has all power and authority and dominion.
Interesting.
And that's what He's gifted me, right? And how do I use that? Now that I've accepted where I'm from, that I have power, dominion, and authority, now what do I do? Because trying to retrace a human history that's fallen and broken, what good does that serve me?
Sheesh. It's interesting because I heard someone say that philosophers, scientists, all the people that are trying to figure out where we came from is climbing up this mountain, and by the time they get to the top of the mountain, they're going to find a bunch of Christians up there. It's like, we've been waiting for you guys. I heard that. I was like, yeah, I can see that. They're like climbing this Mount Everest of like, I need to know, like, let's find this evidence. And then by the time they get there, it's like, oh, wait, what? You guys already knew this?
Yep.
It's like, yeah, bro. So heritage. So you and I both agree. We're not from Earth.
Yeah.
We're technically aliens. This is interesting, Brian. People find it offensive, which I can see how it could be offensive. Being called aliens.
We're spirits in alien bodies. You know what I mean?
Spirits in alien bodies. I like that.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, when I was migrating in America, all on the forms, my immigration process, everything, all has alien number. I have an alien number. Oh, I had one anyway before I was a citizen.
Alien number.
Yeah, so like nowadays people are offended by that, and I can see how that could be discriminative. But it's like, you're not from here. It's okay. Just embrace it.
How did it make you feel seeing that?
Well, I didn't feel any way because I wasn't offended. Like, I feel like being an Australian, we're very sarcastic over there, so it's really hard to be offended, but I feel like it's going going the other direction. But I'll cut that part out. Okay, the next question is, why am I here? So you got, who am I? Where am I from? Why am I here? Purpose.
I think we answered the why am I here in the beginning. You know, purpose.
Identity.
You know?
Yeah. The original intent. Mm-hmm. Well, I want to dive in a little deeper.
To be useful.
Deeper on that
one. To serve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, think about it, right? Like, how do we define value in society?
I would say being able to make society better.
Okay.
Right? Like, if you're able to contribute in a way that make the environment better.
Yeah. Better is
more
like
prosperous.
Yep.
More fruitful, more peaceful, more life-giving,
efficient,
more abundant,
effective.
More efficient. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Growth and development.
Because people think purpose is just like just doing the mediocre.
Just showing up.
And it's like, showing up is definitely part of it, but show up present.
Yeah.
Show up as in engaged and leaned in. Like, how do I make a difference?
Yep.
Yeah.
And, not to cut you off, but that's one thing that we talked about in our marriage group. What does it look like to have a healthy household, a healthy marriage? Is not just a dad that's there, but a dad that's present, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Like, we was in the house. He was in the house, but we didn't talk.
Yep.
Or we went, here and there, but we didn't engage. You know what I mean? Like, we went to church on Sundays, but we didn't talk about God Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? So. Yeah, you got to do more than just show up. You have to engage. Like, you have to head the thing,
That's good because I've heard it said that your availability is your superpower. If you're not available or present, and that's not just with kids. That's at work. That's with friends.
Yeah.
That's in life in general. If you're not present, you've literally missed the gift.
Yep.
Which is the present.
I got this saying where, somebody end up in a bad situation, whatever the situation is, jail, death, sickness. You look up and you ask yourself, how did I get here? It's because as you were going about your life, there was no in the moment. There was no presence. There was no
memories. Creating memories.
Yeah, there was no realizing, hey, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? How am I doing it? You just end up there. Right? And that's what happened when we end up with our children being 19, 20 years old. And then there's no relationship. Right?
There's no relational equity.
None at all. No
seeds planted of love. Yeah.
Woo. You ever find yourself sitting watching TV sometimes or scrolling on your phone and you look up and your kids are just going crazy, and it hits you like, what am I doing?
Yeah, you're numbing yourself.
Yeah, it's just one of those moments, man. If we can have more of those moments of waking up in the act of doing something that we know we shouldn't be doing, man, we can be more engaged and more present, or doing away with the distractions.
So I'm glad you're saying all this, because I've made a tweak in my lifestyle, especially with my kids. So whenever I'm at home, and I actually had an agreement with my wife about this, it's like, this is how we're going to stay off our phones. And this is my strategy. Instead of like full extremity of like, no phones and cut it away, throw it somewhere, or whatever. You could do that if that's something you're having problems with. But what I do now is, instead of I'm scrolling through my phone, I play music through my phone.
Okay.
So I set the tone in the home.
Okay.
And then I have an excuse to use my phone, but in a different way.
Okay. So you're playing music while on your phone, or it's just playing music while sitting elsewhere?
So I use the phone to play music to set the tone in the home. Instead of scrolling on my phone and be distracted, I'm playing music to set the tone.
Okay.
So that my phone is, no, this is a music player now, not my phone.
Gotcha. So it's not in your hand?
It's not in my hand. I'll play one of the great artists, Ryan O'Fay. I'll play him on the speakers, and I'm like, I'm using the phone still, but I'm not using it to be distracted by it. I'm using it to actually set the tone.
To use. I like it. Okay.
Use. Purpose. Be used. What can I do? Okay, so who am I? Where am I from? Heritage. Why am I here? Purpose. And what can I do? Potential. Ooh, that. What can I do?
What can I do?
And that speaks to your potential.
I remember in my 9th grade year of high school, I didn't like school much. Like it was not my favorite thing. Loved playing football. You know, I tell people if it wasn't for football, I probably wouldn't have graduated, because in order to be on the team, you had to have passing grades.
Good motivator, isn't it?
So it was my motivator, man, big time. and I graduated because of that. Like literally, if it wasn't for football, I wouldn't have graduated. But I remember my 9th grade year in high school, one of my favorite classes was science. Like I've always loved science for some reason. No matter how difficult it was, I loved it. And I had this one teacher, and he brought up the word potential. He talked about kinetic. He talked about energy. That's what the subject was on. It was on energy. And I had never heard this concept that he started teaching on. He said energy has 2 forms, kinetic and potential. Kinetic and potential. And, you know, he gave the whole example of what kinetic and potential is. Potential is this phone sitting still. Kinetic is the phone moving, right? You can measure that. And when he said that, I started thinking about myself. Like, what do I have the potential to do as a human being? Totally transformed my life, man. Like, it changed the way I worked. I got a job after that. I was like, what am I capable of doing if I put my life in motion, right?
It's incredible.
It's
amazing how influential our teachers are.
I mean, just one conversation, bro. I never forget it. Like, it changed the way I moved. I started working out more. Like,
so you're saying both kinetic and what was the other one?
Potential.
So kinetic and potential. You're saying use those two realms?
I used them both, man.
Yeah, kinetic and potential.
Kinetic was like, you know, potential is just like anything's possible. You can do anything. You don't know until you start doing it, right?
Okay.
And kinetic is just the process of actually
moving
doing it.
And
it's
actually
movement.
Motion.
Yeah. And then once you start moving, you see things change, and you're like, wow, that was awesome. What else do I have the potential to do? I haven't went that way yet. What's over there? If I start moving in that direction, bam, that was awesome, right? I haven't went that way yet, but I do have the potential to go that way. Bam, you go that way, and something awesome happened, right? You know, that's why I love the movement that takes place in the Bible. Think about it.
Yeah.
Everything moves. Everyone moves. Nothing stops. Adam and Eve, they had to do what? Leave the garden.
Yeah.
Cain and Abel, leave your people. Abraham, leave your father's house. Moses, go get those. You know, Moses had to leave his family, go into the wilderness himself when he left Egypt. Then he had to come back to Egypt, get the people. It's just constant movement. Joseph, to a well, into Egypt, right? Just constant movement. And there's blessings in the movement. And that should be life. That's why we can't stay stagnant. We can't. So the potential to do great things is in everything.
Here's my thought. Like, we are talking about environment versus identity, right? And we're really hitting the 5 foundational questions. We're almost at the end one. But let's talk about potential. But I want to hit on what you just said earlier of movement. I'm thinking about the season I'm in right now, right? I have to go out, right? Go out and meet with people, talk about the school, talk about our business, you know, just like what we're about. I have to move. But this is the thing that I'm learning is like, before I move though, to be more calibrated and effective before I move, because I don't want to just move recklessly, or I don't want to move if I'm not moved. Here's what I mean by that. I'm assigning reasons why I'm moving.
Okay.
This is what I mean by that. Okay. I'm going out there to tell people about this school because I get to rescue more children.
Yeah.
Now, what am I rescuing from? Don't get me wrong. There's many other contributors out there, but they won't do it as well as we are.
Yeah.
Right. I believe that.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly.
And if you don't believe it, who will?
Exactly right. So I'm passing on the belief. So what I'm saying is you gotta assign emotion before you move. Emotion before the motion.
Okay.
Because everyone do things because they feel like it.
But what about the people? What about the people who have great potential but won't move because they're, what's that word? There's a word, like there's a phrase for it. Failure to launch.
Okay.
What about those people?
It's because
multiple degrees,
yes,
but won't use one. Gifted and talented, but won't display it. Won't make an offer, right?
I can't speak towards the degrees one.
The artists who can draw, who can sing, but won't make an offer.
Unfortunately,
so that they can be fruitful with that gift and that talent, right?
I'm trying to figure out how to say that, but no, I won't speak on behalf of those who have degrees because I'm not one of them. I want to speak to the ones, and you can speak to the ones with degrees. I don't want to go there because I know why. I have an inkling in my spirit. I know why, because someone talked them out of them doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing. They indoctrinated them with all this information.
And they took the safe route. Go get a degree,
and
get
sometimes
a job.
It's indirect.
Yeah.
Sometimes indirect is like, oh, you don't want to be with this. You don't want to, they'll come up with their reasons, but then the people around them starts to assign their reason with their own reason. And it's like, wait, no, it's a contributing factor, not a determining factor.
Being talked out of purpose.
That. Yeah. So let's go back to those who don't have a degree, right? Okay. You say failure to launch. The reason why they're failing to launch is because they're just not aware. There's probably this mindset of scarcity rather than abundance. They don't realize that they are a valuable asset. They have to see it. They have to see the potential.
Yeah.
You have a contributing part to play.
But and it goes back to the number one, identity.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
So it's almost
know
back.
You don't know, you don't know.
And the reality check of like, if you're failing to launch, go back to your identity. Because if you don't know who you are, then what makes you think you're going to convince someone else to know who you are? If you don't know your potential, then why are you out there?
Exactly.
Trying to tell people about your potential? You're living a lie.
Okay, but let's make it simple. Making it simple. So when we're talking about purpose, identity, reasoning.
We still have one more.
And all that good stuff. That's somebody who have a sense of, what the environment entails and what they're capable of. But what about somebody who's just stuck in their environment? Like, what do we tell that 17-year-old boy, right, who's finishing up high school, who he's talking about purpose? He like, bro, I'm 17, I'm just trying to get out of school. I'm trying to play some video games, play some basketball, may not want to go to college, just want to get a job, right? Like, how do you let that person know that they have purpose, that they have, greatness within them?
I would say be aware of who inspires you, right? And now some people are inspired by people that are gang leaders and they're rapping about some stuff. I used to look up to these people back in the day. And I come to realize, wait, how do they contribute? Are they promoting healthy lifestyles? Are they promoting people to live their best life? Or are they promoting to go into prison?
Yeah.
Right? That's as simple as it can be.
Really? Like, do you want their life 10 years from now, 4 years from now, 3 years from now?
Yeah.
Do you want where they're headed? So here's what. So growing up in Detroit, there was a lot of, in the neighborhood that I was in. Like I was in Detroit. I wasn't in like the suburbs of Detroit. You hear people say, "Yeah, I'm from Detroit," but no, it's like 40 minutes from the city.
Right. It's not real Detroit.
So and I grew up in neighborhoods where it was a lot of it was a lot of violence, it was a lot of drugs, right? And the people who really had money, or the things that a young teenage dude would want, or a young girl would like to have, was the dudes who were selling drugs. They had nice cars, nice clothes, and so forth, right? But the thing that just deterred me from that lifestyle was, it was like, yeah, I want money and I want nice things. Yeah. I want to be able to spend it. like I don't want to have the fear of not being able to live a good lifestyle because I'm concerned about who's looking at where I'm getting this money from. Yeah. So that was one of the things that really deterred me, from because all my friends did it. My family members, did drugs, sold drugs and things like that. So for me, the determining factor was, you know what? I want to be able to live a peaceful life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I thought it was possible.
More peace than anything else, yeah.
And I thought it was possible. Even without seeing it, I just knew in my heart that it was possible. I didn't know how. I just knew it was possible. And moving, like leaving the environment, getting a fresh perspective and a different view. Like I say, in the Bible, there's movement. Yeah. And in that movement, man, in that potential to go, you'll see things differently.
Going back to your question, if like a 17-year-old, maybe even younger, is like, you're telling me about my purpose and all this, I'm like, yeah, guess what? You have technology in your hands.
Man, they have.
You have the world in the palm of your hands now.
It's a gift and a curse.
If you're allowed to have one. Because I know some parents don't allow them to have internet. But
it's a gift and a curse.
It is a gift and a curse.
Like, the crazy thing about it is, I don't think there's, and this is just my perspective, I don't think anything that's been created was ever created for evil. I think good things have been turned bad.
Yes.
Think about anything that's been created, man. Like any piece of technology.
Most of the things, yeah.
Any piece of technology was used to make life more efficient, more easier.
It's been a counterfeit.
Yeah, and then somebody used it to commit fraud or theft or, hack people.
It's kind of like
accounts and things like that, right?
The beauty's found in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
It's kind of like technology is found in the one that's holding it.
I think anything that we called a weapon was once made as a tool.
It was a hunting tool.
It was a tool. Yep, it was a tool to hunt, to eat, to make work better. You know what I mean? Like the knife in the hand of a surgeon could also be the weapon in the hand of a murderer.
Okay, we talked about who am I, where am I from, why am I here, what can I do, and the last one is where am I going, destiny. So we talked about identity, heritage, purpose, potential. Now destiny. This is where I really think you can get mile markers knowing that you're going in the right direction. Because whenever you're going somewhere, you'll start to like figure out around your environment, like, am I actually moving in the right direction for my identity, for my heritage, for my purpose and potential? Because I'll give you an example. Like I'm in the realm of educational system where we've started a school. Now we've partnered with our church that we're housing this school in an incredible building. Amazing and we have these amazing people coming in, these families who are world changers, got lawyers, got all these entrepreneurs coming into our school, and it's amazing to see. So that in of itself tells me, hey, that's a mile marker.
Yeah.
But you're not stopping there.
Nope.
It's like, okay, I think I'm going the right direction. What's next? And part of what's next right now is there's more people I get to serve.
Yeah.
Making more room for more.
Yep.
More effectiveness, more impact. I think Myron Golden said this. He said, if you want to do good, serve a few. If you want to be great, serve a lot.
Wow. well, you got to start with good. You got to get good at being good.
Before you become great.
Before you become great.
Yes,
yeah.
Sir.
You got to do anything good enough to where, you refine that thing and it just gets better and better. And I think greatness just shows up in the act of doing good really well. To where it's like, wow, you're an expert. Because you just did the thing over and over.
That's good.
Until you worked out the kinks.
That's so good, man.
Right. When you talk about destiny, where you're going, and like I think why we click so well in our passions and in our purpose is because we're both after people. And we're not just both after people. Like, yeah, we meet with adults. We meet with married couples. We meet with young men, young women. But our passion, I think, is children. It's the next generation. You know what I mean? Yeah. The reason why I started the nonprofit, is to help young men and young women get not just jobs and careers, but to live a life of a purpose. Our slogan is a pathway to purpose. I was sharing with you before we turned the camera on that a good friend of mine took her life. She was 47 years old, or in her 40s. And I think it's because she felt hopeless.
She was sad.
She was sad, yeah. Very little education, no education, very little skill set, right? And you can feel lost, depressed. And that's a life of no hope. Yeah. Just feel like giving up, right? And then I had a friend of mine that I was working out with tell me that his cousin took his own life.
Sheesh.
He was 17 years old. So it doesn't matter whether you're 17 or 47.
Wow.
Like there's hopelessness in both of those generations. It's like, how do we remove that hopeless, across that spectrum?
Yeah.
And you're getting them at 2, 3, 4, 5 years old.
3 months.
3 months. By the time I get them there, 17, 18, 19, right? So I think that's both of our purpose is to help people find out what their destiny looks like. Jeez. Like, where's hope, in a world that can seem hopeless. Like there's plenty of hope. I like to use the cliche, if I could do it, anybody could do it. And that's the truth. Because when I was 17, I felt hopeless. Yeah. I felt hopeless in one season, and then in another season, I feel like, man, I'm going to do it. I hit 25. I felt hopeless in one season, but in another season, I felt like it's possible. I can do it,
Yeah.
But for me, the contributing factor was movement. Every time I moved, I felt re-energized. I felt reinvigorated. I felt like there was something different.
That's interesting you're saying that, because we talked a little bit about emotions to start the process of motion, right? And I think about...
When you say E being internal, and then movement, like what inside you is moving you. And it goes back to what you just said earlier, like you need you say you need to make a decision. Like you need to have an idea of what you're going to do before you do it. And the ideal is like, it's internal, right? It's that internal emotion.
Yeah, because I think we mentioned this a few episodes back where there's this idea around spiritual isolation versus spiritual insulation. Because spiritual isolation is like you're cut off from the world, you're cut off from the thing that will give you hope. Yeah. You've cut yourself off from that. But then having spiritual insulation is where something inside of you has reacted to an inspirational message, or someone has said something, or you've seen something. It could even just you seeing a problem. This triggered me. Yeah. In a good way. I want to make a change. I hate seeing people left out in the streets who are addicted to drugs. You can just tell by their mannerisms and their appearance. It's like, I want to make a change. What do I need to do? Yeah. And you can't give what you don't have, so you start to educate yourself. Yep. You start to connect with people like-minded. So it's like it all starts to come together. Yeah. We resonate because our passions and our strengths are in alignment. Yep. And when our passions and our strengths are in alignment, we're able to contribute at a greater capacity, because you've got the 17, the 16-year-olds, I've got the 3-month-year-olds, and at some point I'm going to get to the 17 because we want to build our grades. So, but we can't do that without connection. Yeah. Can't do that without community.
Contributing.
And you can't do that with not knowing your identity. Yeah. So I think that's a great place to start.